But the issue here is, how are you going to do the jobs? Let me just give you an example of one of the things that's a little frustrating with it. There's in Canada, they've got it. If maybe you've known something about it, it's called the Keystone Pipeline. The Keystone Pipeline is a Canadian company, and they have extracted out of the oil shales, the sand shales up in northern Alberta, and they want to take the oil from Canada, and they're going to do a pipeline over north of Chicago and then down through the continental United States, down through to the coastal area, so that they can refine the oil, the crude oil, down in the Gulf Coast. Jobs for Americans in treating this crude from Canada. 20,000 jobs, 20,000 construction jobs to build the pipeline. 3 years, the company in Canada has been waiting for a permit. And they're not getting answers back. 3 years they've been waiting to build a pipeline. It's not our oil. This is just someone who wants to bring our oil down and create jobs for our refinery workers. 20,000 construction jobs, let alone the number of work, and it's being held up. And we're going to try. We've got a bill that I'm one of the co-sponsors with, and I've signed on to that. And one of the things is to say that, Mr. President, if you're going to hold the permit up any longer to the end of the year, if you don't give them an answer, then it's going to be an automatic approval for them to build the pipeline. But if you choose to vote no, then we'll deal with that in another fashion. But right now, they're not hearing from them. So in the business world, you can't do anything without a permit. We need to get that permit and get those people to work. But that's that's just an example of the thing, that intrusion of build this pipeline. But what I'm hearing, some of it, their concern was, we don't want that oil to go to China. Folks, it's not our oil. It's Canadian. But more worrisome for me is if they don't want oil to go to China, are they going to turn on our coal exports that we're shipping to China next and say, we don't want you to export our coal to China? That's a reason here with this miner that I have up front. That was an early lesson I learned in the process in Washington, that for some reason, for whatever the reason, I'm sure there's people who have justification, the miners and the industry that is so strong in West Virginia is not respected in Washington. So I got Thorny Lieberman out of Charleston made this photograph for me, and it's a 6 foot, and it's a life-size picture of a coal miner. And I have it on my wall, so when you come to my office in Washington, I hope all of you can come in there. All right, that includes you too. So when they come to Washington, I want them to see this picture of the miner, because he represents our worker. If you look in his eye, here's a guy that's just come out of the mine. He's filthy, dirty. You can tell he's tired. He's grit, but that look in his eyes. Look at that grit and determination of him. He's got all safety gear. He's come out, but what he done? He's put his arm around his daughter. I want people in Washington to look at our coal mining industry and understand they're not just statistics. These miners are men and women. They're our brothers. They're our uncles. They're our neighbors. They're the people. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I find so surprising with people in Washington, they don't understand. Some coal mines are only 40-some inches or less in height. And a man like this will crawl on his hands and knees all day long so that we get coal out of the ground, so we have electricity and air conditioning. That's what it takes, is that kind of determination that makes me so proud to help in our coal industry, to make sure that that industry will prevail, because there is a war on coal. And it was one of the cornerstones of our campaign that we talked about. One was jobs. Second was health care, and we'll deal with that. Third was spending, and we're dealing with that. And the fourth was protecting our mining industry and the miners in it. I want to make sure that any of these miners, when they go to work in the morning, their wives or spouses, or they can expect them to come home that night. That idea of what happened in Upper Big Branch was shameful. You don't know all the details about it, but 29 men didn't come home that night. And just last week, Earlier this week, we lost another down in Logan County. It's a dangerous job these men are doing. But what they do is they're working for America. They're working to make sure that we have low-cost energy and we can produce jobs. So I make sure, I want everyone across, wherever, when they come to my office, they all get the same lecture. They probably leave, say, I won't go back there again. But I want them to all hear about miners. I want them to respect what is the backbone of our state's economy. So those are some of the highlights of what we're trying to do there. I could go on with a series of things that I'm trying to do with this issue of the government intruding in our lives. I could get a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, but it just to show what's happened, that we've just allowed it to happen over the years, more governmental intrusion. It's not a big thing, but it's a creeping intrusion. Just go back, and this is not a Republican Democrat. It's just government getting big. Remember, first they came into our bathrooms and made our toilets so that we don't have enough water to flush. Okay? Then they went for our shower heads so that we don't have enough water to rinse off properly. Now, then they're attacking our light bulbs, that they don't want us to have incandescent light bulbs. And now they're trying to get, the government's trying to involve itself with the CAFE standards and have all our automobiles to have 40 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour on it. You know, aren't those great ideas? But let the market decide. I say to people, just show me in this Constitution. Show me in the where government has the right to tell me how much water is in my toilet, how much comes out of my shower head, the light bulb, or the size of my automobile. You know, let the free market make that decision. It's just a small thing, but to me it's a manifestation of government getting into our lives. I'm trying to get them to back off so that we can, the employers can see a sense of direction of where our country's going. Because right now they're intimidated. They're uncertain about tomorrow. When all this spending was going on, they reached a point, they said, if this spending continues, it's a no-brainer to understand. Eventually, there are going to be increased taxes. So they pull back until it's clear what direction they're going to go in. And I don't want to see that. This, you won't see in a growing economy higher taxes. It just doesn't go that way. So we're going to work on that, is finding ways of trying to set a course so that we don't have the uncertainty in our workforce. Because I believe in my heart, I've talked to too many industry, too many employers. If you would just give us a clean direction of where we're going, they'd start hiring again. Yesterday, 2 days ago, I had an opportunity to, the guy said, I could hire 60 more people today, but I'm not sure what's going to happen tomorrow. Is the economy going to continue spending and borrowing money? And if it is, am I going to be facing? He said, I'm just sitting back and I'm going to wait. I'll close with this on it. There is just for you to understand how on this deficit, because I do hope we get there are some questions about the deficit on this. The deficit is running right now about $1.6 trillion. I don't know about you all, but I don't deal with trillions. That's just a number that's kind of foreign to me. But it is a fact. We're $1.6 trillion. So let me help you a little bit. That means that deficit for every year, to pay for that deficit, we have to borrow every day. Every day, the federal government has to borrow $4 billion every day. Put that in context. The entire state of West Virginia, all 55 counties, our higher ed, secondary ed, our health systems, our state police, everything but highways is funded for an entire year for $4 billion. We can run our state for an entire year of what the federal government has to buy every day to just pay the debt. So we've got some issues. That is principle. Another one that I talked about, those four things, we talked about jobs, spending, healthcare, and coal. This is another issue that we have up, is on the back wall. We were just in Kaiser the other night, and I failed to mention this. But that chart back there is emblematic. Those are all new regulations from Obamacare. That chart, that's all new. That's what's up above it, is a timeline for the implementation with it. Here's more involved in the healthcare, trying to give people a little bit of a perspective on this issue. We know we need to modify the healthcare. We know that. And there are some things that were appropriate. Things like pre-existing conditions. We need to make sure that whatever comes out, the change in healthcare, that we have that. But we also need to have things like being able for portability. We want to be able to get insurance across state lines. We want more individual accountability. Those are the kinds of things we want to have in our healthcare package that I think is going to be more acceptable. I don't want to have, it's so divisive. We're seeing people, we're finding out now, there must be something wrong with the bill. And maybe the whole idea, when you think that over 3,000 companies have opted out, they've gotten a waiver to get out of the program. Now, whole states are trying to opt out of it. That means it must need rework.